Hi, my name's Katrina Molto and I'm doing part B of Unit 7 for my project. Alright, Jean has agreed to be interviewed for this part. Jean, are you happy to be part of the board for part B of my practical?
Yes.
Okay, now the reason that I'm here today to the whole board is that I represent White Lions. We have had funding from your board to promote the employment of juvenile detention, people from juvenile detention that are looking to seek further employment or employment. We've had a very successful campaign, and the reason I'm here today is to do a presentation to you of where your funding went and how successful it was, and also to seek maybe future opportunities to extend the program. So if you can listen to me today and all the statistics that I've got, and we'll go from there. So the program started very successfully. We have aimed it at the community to promote juvenile employment, or people or juveniles that have come out of detention and to be employed, and raise community awareness of juveniles coming from detention. We ran 2 surveys. One survey was at the train station utilising volunteers. The volunteers asked people on the street coming from the train station would they be willing to employ somebody who had been in juvenile detention. We had extremely good responses from those that we did ask, and that was face to face with volunteers, so we had a very good response and good feedback, and that people would be willing to employ them. Our second survey was an anonymous one, which was a written one, where people responded and reported back to us anonymously. That survey asked people prior to the survey whether they would consider employing somebody who'd come from juvenile detention. 1 in 7 employers said they would be willing to. After we sent the survey out, however, that changed from 1 out of 3 employers would be willing to employ somebody who'd come from juvenile detention. So we had a very good feedback from this campaign so far. We've done radio and media coverage, or radio so far. The radio has been good because we've been able to get clients from juvenile detention who are currently working and going through this community awareness program, and they've been on the radio, so the public has been able to respond. So far, that public response has been overwhelmingly positive, that people and employers are willing to consider employing somebody from youth and juvenile detention. Generally 18-year-olds that's the peak age group prior to 18, coming up to 18, when a youth would reoffend. So for us to do this program to try and get them into employment after they've been in a juvenile situation and before they turn 18 is quite imperative. The more training and more support and education we can give these children and youth and get them into an employment situation, the less likelihood they are of reoffending. Once somebody reaches 18, they become an adult, there are less chances of education and services such as this helping them and assisting them forward. So I think in total the campaign has been very successful. The funding that you've given the group was $10,000 originally. Budgeted for, we've used $8,500, so we're $1,500 under the original target or budget. And we've had such a good response from the local community about this campaign. We've also had posters in the area asking people to consider employing us, and photos of different clients. So I think if you were to consider it, we've got $1,500 left over from that. I think the positivity for this is that as a community group, you're helping your community move forward and helping youth who've been in juvenile detention get employment and not reoffend, which is going to help the community anyway. We don't want reoffenders going out and reoffending. We don't want juveniles coming from a detention situation and turning around and reoffending and only going back to a jail situation again. When they come out, the chances of reoffending are fairly high. It's very costly to have people institutionalised, and so to have them in a prison situation is not positive either. So for us, the extension of the program so that we can get more juveniles into employment would be extremely beneficial. My proposal at this stage is that if you were to consider extending the program for another 6 weeks, that we would consider maybe a higher media program, or maybe consider newspapers for promoting the program as a community group, possibly make even more awareness of it, maybe by incorporating a couple of other youth and community groups to be involved in it as well, not on a funding level but on a voluntary level, as in would still put posters up, make people aware, do the radio interviews still with clients. We may consider involving maybe the council to do, or a couple of employers that have put a few juveniles on, and maybe interview and do maybe some newspaper articles. So we certainly consider ramping up the advertising side of it. As a funding organisation, your name would be linked to all of that advertising too. So if you've got any questions from the board on the program or the statistics I've given you to date, or whether you've got any advice or ideas that you think might be, good to look at for the future. Do you think the advertising campaign we've done so far has been successful, and is there any information you think that we should be getting?
No, it all sounds as though it's been very successful, and it's showing to the general public the good that it's doing for the youth who've had problems. And I think the board should really seriously consider continuing with it, even if for the next 6 weeks or even after that, to keep on going with the young people before they reach adulthood at 18. I like the idea, and I'm sure that the rest of the board would really think it was positive.
Okay. What I might do then, if the board were to consider it, is come back with a few statistics, and maybe another presentation, and bring one of these young youth and juvenile from juvenile detention in with me, so you can get a perspective from their viewpoint about how they're going in that program. It may only be a 5-minute presentation. Also maybe a media campaign, and the ideas I've had to run a media campaign to promote it, and your links to it with your community group and the funding. Considering that we've fallen under budget for this one, that's I think quite positive. And your name, this group's name, has been linked with every program that we've run and the advertising to date. Our volunteers that have volunteered to do the data surveys are still volunteering, so they're unpaid, which is nice, and it has helped the small community. I will also ask the local police station if that has had any impact since we've been running the program, because it would be nice to get some feedback from them as well. So if you're happy for me to do that and you're willing to consider it, then I'll put a bit of a presentation forward. And maybe at your next board meeting, the program's still running for another 2 or 3 weeks, and if we're looking at extending it, maybe I can meet with the board again in 2 weeks' time and do another presentation, and we can go from there. But if you're happy to consider it, that would be good.
Yes, sounds a good idea.
Great. All right, well, thank you very much for your time today and the money you've contributed so far, and it's been most successful. So extending it forward would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.